Hello folks, Dr. Paul Piquel here. I'm an assistant professor of teaching at the University of British Columbia in the Faculty of Forestry, and in this video I'm going to give you a sneak peek of a brand new feature that we've been working on as part of our Minetest Classroom game environment. This is a pretty exciting new development that we've been working on, and it's conceptually really interesting. So we've been calling it the Dynamic Tutorial Recording Framework. And essentially what this is it allows you to record tutorials using various Minetest callbacks from the Minetest API and use those with your player. So anything that your player does is essentially something that you can record as part of the tutorial. So it's a really great and easy way to build up tutorials. And then we've also created a tutorial basically handling system where you can make tutorials dependent on each other. You have to do them in sequence, and you can get rewards and privileges and all kinds of other things from these tutorials. So this consists of two things. The first item is basically this tutorial book that I'm holding in my hand, and this really just lists to the player what the available tutorials are. And currently we don't have any tutorials recorded, but if there were any, they would be found here. So we'll come back to that in a moment. The other item is actually a tool, and it's this recording tool. So this is simply a tool that you wield. You left click it once and it indicates in the upper left hand corner that a recording has started, and basically anything that you do with your player is going to be recorded. So this records pretty much any action that you do except walking around. So it doesn't record your position as you're moving around, but it will record if you go and dig something. So I can try and digging some dirt. And then I'm just going to go back to the item, wield it again, and left click to stop the recording. And this will prompt you to enter a title for the recording. So let's say go dig dirt, and the description is going to be dig one dirt. You can also provide a completion message. So we can say, hooray, you dug one dirt. So that's kind of some simple stuff that you can add in there. Under the Events tab, you'll see exactly what was recorded. So in this case, it was pretty simple. I accidentally punched a node of default dirt with grass twice before I actually dug it. And this is actually pretty typical whenever you dig anything in Minetest. You usually punch it first and then the digging action happens. So if you don't actually care if somebody punches something, you can also modify these. So for example, there's these two punches that happen before I dig, and there's usually also a punch after you dig something, because you dig it and then you end up punching the block that's behind it. So if you don't want that in your recording, you can also delete that. You can also manually add your own events if you really want to. So you can define all kinds of callbacks that we have in here, including digging stuff, pressing a particular key, wielding an item, going to an absolute position, looking in a particular direction, placing a node, looking in a vertical direction, punching a node, and looking in a horizontal direction. So you can define specific event types here. If you miss something as part of your tutorial recording, you can add them that way. Otherwise, you can also edit the ones that you've already done, or you've already completed, that are already recorded. You can rearrange them if you want. You can delete them. You can copy them as many times as you want. So there's a lot of really cool functionality in here. And basically, these are the recorded events that have to happen in sequence, that the player has to complete in sequence in order to complete the tutorial. Once they've completed the sequence of events, they can then be rewarded with something. So what we've done is we've basically made it possible to reward a player with any registered item, tool, or privilege at the game start. So you can see that this list is very long, and it's also coded. So we have these items here are all the default items available in Minetest. Denoted by that capital I there. We have nodes that are denoted by anything else that's registered as a node. It's not necessarily an item, of which there are many. We have a bunch of privileges, P, and then we have a bunch of tools, T. And so for this very simple tutorial, I'm going to reward this player for punching or for digging some dirt. I'm going to reward them with a diamond axe. That sounds pretty cool. You can also modify the quantity, which is a work in progress, as well as being able to search for particular tools, or items or privileges, in the case that you have a very long list to look through. So yeah, once you're done, you can go back to the overview and finish and save. It'll indicate that your tutorial was saved, and now we can actually go back to our tutorial book and use this item, and now we see our new tutorial that was recorded. Go dig dirt, and the description here is to dig 1 dirt. So if you are somebody who has recording privileges, you will also see these other buttons appear down here, which are delete and edit, and this just allows you to go back into the tutorial and change anything about it if you want. So I'm going to go back. You can also delete from here. These buttons are not visible to other players that don't have the privilege to record a tutorial. So we can start this tutorial if you were any player and simply go up to some dirt and dig it. And we get a little message that hooray, you dug 1 dirt. And we also, as you can see, I'm now wielding the rewarded item. You probably also heard that there's a little dinging bell to indicate that you actually completed that task. That could be very annoying for many events if you have a long string of events, but it sort of indicates that the player is completing a particular event in the task, which is really important. So now I have my axe. I can go ahead and go record additional tutorials. I can go record another tutorial. Let's say I'm going to record a tutorial that chops down 4 wood. And now I'm done with that tutorial. I'm going to say chop 4 wood, actually I'm going to say for the title, chop some wood, and then go and chop 4 wood as the description. On completion, hooray, you completed the tutorial. All right, you can see here our events are this very long sequence because, as I said, you usually punch the node before you actually dig it. And here we're actually recording that we digged a particular node, which is the tree, with an item in this case. So before we were just using our bare hands, which is probably pretty brutal. We can clean this up and get rid of all these punch nodes if we don't want to care for them too much, and we can just leave ourselves with digging basically a tree with a diamond axe. And that is the new tutorial. We can give some reward for this. What should we give? We can give, let's give a diamond sword in this case. And now you'll see that because there's currently a tutorial that's already recorded, we can now add this as a dependency. And or maybe you want the player to learn how to go do some type of action before they do something else. This is a great way to set up dependencies and modify those, and eventually those will be communicated and shown within the tutorial notebook for the student or for the player. So finish and save, and we can go back to our tutorial, and now we see that we've actually completed this tutorial, and now we have a new tutorial. We can start that tutorial. We have a diamond axe. Probably should have indicated that you should chop the wood with the diamond axe. And now we're given a diamond sword. So you get the idea. You can layer on all kinds of rewards and sequencing of things, and it's really quite fancy. The other cool stuff, besides just digging stuff and hitting stuff, is that if I start a new tutorial, you'll notice there it says right-click to see more recording options. If I right-click with the tool, there's a few other things that I can actually record in-game. So I can record, for example, my current position of my player, the X, Y, and Z location. And whenever that is activated for the player, there's a tolerance that's associated with it. So you don't have to stand in that exact position, but it's usually plus or minus some area around that location. And that can be useful for like having players go to a specific location in a map and or seeing something. We can also have a recording of a particular wielded item. So maybe you want the player to learn how to switch between items in their hotbar or in their inventory. You can do that. You can also have them learn how to press keys, jump, move forward, crouch, or not crouch, but sneak, those kinds of things. You can also record look directions, which there's a variety of different things that you can do there. If you have them move to a particular location and then look up or over to a certain direction or a certain feature to draw their attention to something, then that's another thing you can record and do. So there's a lot of options here, and those are additional options beyond just sort of wielding tools and interacting in the environment. So there's a lot of fun stuff to try out. And as I said, when you are recording something, you can, when you finish recording something, you can always go in here and explore everything that you can do by adding a new event. And as I said, you can access all of the keys that you want to have the player press or do in a particular sequence or a particular direction you want them to look. There's instructions on the right-hand side about how that's used and how to use it. So there's a lot of cool stuff in here to explore, and we're still experimenting with some of this and how to display it, display the information to players. But this is a really awesome tool that will be released just as part of the Minetest Classroom subgame that we're releasing, but also it's technically it can be a standalone tool, a standalone mod to use with any other game or even the default game of Minetest. If you want to show players how to do things on your server, how to complete tasks or whatever, it's a really, really great framework for doing that. And as I said, it provides support, native support for all of the tools and events and rewards and things that you might want to give to players. You can, as I said, customize completion messages, what to do next, that kind of thing. And for us, this is still a work in progress, but I did want to give you this really, really cool sneak peek. And I hope you enjoyed it. And that's all for now. Thanks for watching.